My name is Elazar, a scribe from Jerusalem. I've dedicated my life to the study of the Torah and the meticulous preservation of our sacred texts. My days are spent poring over ancient scrolls, deciphering their meaning and ensuring their accuracy for generations to come. It is a life of quiet contemplation, of unwavering devotion to the traditions of our people. The Sanhedrin, the esteemed council of elders, troubled by persistent rumors emanating from Galilee, rumors that spoke of miracles and unconventional teachings, sent me, Elazar, a humble servant of the law, to observe a Nazarene called Jesus. They sought clarity amidst the growing uncertainty, a reasoned assessment of this man who was capturing the hearts and minds of the northern populace. They wanted facts, objective observations, not the fervor of his followers or the biased accounts of his detractors. My task was to gather evidence, to analyze his words and deeds, and to report back with an unbiased judgment. I journeyed north, my heart filled with skepticism and my mind wary of the potential for deception. The road was long and arduous, the sun beating down upon me as I traversed the ancient trade routes that connected Jerusalem to the Galilee. Galilee felt worlds apart from Jerusalem's order, a stark contrast to the structured life I knew. The air was different, the people were different, and the very landscape seemed to breathe a different kind of spirit. It was dusty, raw and restless, a land of farmers and fishermen, far removed from the intellectual and religious debates of Jerusalem. Jesus, they said, was stirring the people, igniting a flame of hope in their hearts and challenging the established order. Whispers of miracles and pronouncements of a new kingdom filled the air. I expected to find a zealot, a rabble-rouser, or perhaps a charlatan, preying on the vulnerable and exploiting their faith. I anticipated grand pronouncements and theatrical displays. Instead, I found a man walking among fishermen, mending nets and sharing stories by the Sea of Galilee. He was unremarkable in appearance, blending seamlessly into the crowd of ordinary Galileans. He wore no fine robes, commanded no legions, and was surrounded by no followers of status or wealth. His garments were simple, his demeanor unassuming. Yet there was a stillness about him, a palpable sense of peace that radiated outwards, even in the midst of the bustling crowds. He possessed an aura of tranquility, even in the midst of the pressing crowds that gathered around him in the marketplaces and along the shores of the sea. The people who gathered, a motley assortment of individuals from all walks of life. Peasants, their faces etched with the hardships of their labor, fishermen, their hands calloused from years of casting nets, the overlooked, the marginalized, those whom society had cast aside, were drawn to him by a potent mixture of hope and desperation, seeking solace and perhaps even a miracle. I watched from a distance, a silent observer in this unfolding drama, meticulously recording their faces, their longing, their unwavering belief in this enigmatic figure. What could this man offer that our traditions, our laws, our carefully preserved scriptures did not? What was the source of his appeal, the secret to his influence? My task was to observe with a critical eye, to analyze his teachings, to understand the nature of his power. Was he a threat to the established order, a subversive element undermining the authority of the temple? A madman, lost in delusions of grandeur, or simply a misguided soul? Or was he something else entirely, something that defied easy categorization, something that challenged the very foundations of my understanding? The journey to Galilee became more than just a physical one. It was a journey into the unknown, a descent into the depths of my own beliefs. It was a search for meaning in the enigma of Jesus, a quest to unravel the mystery that surrounded this man from Nazareth. I sharpened my reed pen, carefully honing its point to ensure the clarity of my script. I prepared fresh parchment, ready to chronicle with precision and detail everything that I found, everything that I witnessed. The desert wind whispered secrets through the canyons and across the barren plains, carrying with it the echoes of ancient prophecies. And I felt compelled to listen, to open my heart and mind to the possibility that something extraordinary was about to unfold. My skepticism was my shield, a necessary defense against the potential for deception and disappointment. But curiosity, That insatiable human desire to understand the unknown pressed me forward, urging me to delve deeper into the mystery. The phenomenon of Jesus of Nazareth, this humble carpenter from a small Galilean village, was already challenging my ordered worldview, forcing me to question the very foundations upon which I had built my life. As I observed Jesus, spending time in his presence and reflecting on his actions, what struck me first, and continued to resonate deeply within me, was his utter lack of possessions. It wasn't just a matter of not accumulating wealth, it was a conscious choice to live without the burdens and distractions that material things often bring. He seemed to float above the need for security that possessions often provide others. He owned no house, no permanent dwelling to call his own. He embraced a nomadic existence, moving from place to place, relying on the hospitality of others. No donkey or any beast of burden, for that matter, to ease his travels. He walked, he journeyed on foot, embracing the physical demands of his mission. No purse of coins. Money, the lifeblood of commerce and security, seemed to hold no allure for him. He trusted in providence, in the generosity of those he encountered. He slept under the open sky, exposed to the elements, finding rest wherever he could, unconcerned with comfort or safety in the conventional sense, accepting gifts only to pass them on, immediately sharing whatever he received with those in need, embodying a spirit of selfless generosity. He declined fine lodging, choosing instead the humblest of accommodations, or none at all, prioritizing simplicity over luxury. He avoided wealth, recognizing its potential to corrupt and distract from the true purpose of life. He saw it as a barrier, not a bridge to spiritual fulfillment, and shunned power. He had no interest in earthly dominion or political influence, focusing instead on the power of love and compassion. Applause from crowds meant nothing to him. He wasn't swayed by fleeting moments of public adoration. He never sought to elevate himself above others, always remaining grounded and approachable, treating everyone with equal respect. There was no self-promotion, no carefully crafted image to maintain. His message spoke for itself, unadorned and authentic, no entourage, no retinue of followers vying for his attention or currying favor, no fanfare. His arrival was often unannounced, his presence unassuming. He dined with tax collectors, those ostracized by society, showing them dignity and acceptance. Shared bread with outcasts, those deemed unworthy by the religious establishment, demonstrating his boundless compassion, but sought no favors in return. His actions were motivated by pure love and a desire to serve, not by any expectation of personal gain. He walked everywhere, traversing the dusty roads and rugged terrain of Galilee and Judea, as dusty as any peasant, blurring the lines between teacher and student, leader and follower. His gratitude for small kindnesses, a simple act of hospitality, a word of encouragement, was genuine and quiet, a reflection of his deep appreciation for the simple things in life. He moved through the world, seemingly detached from its superficial concerns, unburdened by its demands for status, its relentless pursuit of recognition and power. In Jerusalem, influence was currency, social standing dictated access and opportunity. Here, his wealth was an unshakable inner core, a profound sense of purpose and unwavering conviction. His authority came from a source, not from earthly titles or positions of power I could not name, a wellspring of wisdom and compassion that defied easy explanation. He was a paradox, a riddle wrapped in simplicity, owning nothing, relinquishing all material comforts and worldly ambitions, yet possessing a compelling presence, a magnetic force that drew people to him and transformed their lives. This simplicity was a stark contrast, a jarring juxtaposition to the opulence and self-importance to the leaders I knew, the powerful figures who sought to maintain their positions through wealth and influence. The Nazarene's life was a living rebuke, a silent condemnation of the values that drove the established order. To ambition and materialism, a powerful testament to the freedom and joy that can be found in a life of simplicity and service. His teachings were as unconventional as his life. He spoke of a kingdom of God, no armies, no palaces, no taxes. The rich, he said, would struggle to enter, the first would be last. These words unsettled the ambitious and powerful. After feeding a crowd, the people wanted to make him king, but he withdrew alone. He refused power, avoided control, and redefined leadership. His followers were not commanded, but invited. Family to him was not blood, but those who did God's will. This was a radical shift. Spiritual kinship over tribal loyalty. He was not building an earthly movement, but pointing to something unseen. The countryside became his synagogue, the wildflowers his adornment. The Jordan River, a place of new beginnings, echoed his message. Jesus embodied a new order, unconstrained by old ways of power or family. His teachings challenged everything I thought I knew. As I delved deeper into the life and teachings of Jesus, I found myself increasingly drawn to the nuances of his character. I noted not just what Jesus did, the miracles he performed and the parables he shared, but also, and perhaps more importantly, what he refused to do. It was in these refusals, these conscious choices, that I began to glimpse the true essence of the man. He never claimed superiority, never placed himself above others, even though his wisdom and power were evident to all who encountered him. He never boasted about his abilities or his divine connection, choosing instead to remain humble and approachable. He never charged for his teachings, freely sharing his wisdom with anyone who was willing to listen, regardless of their social status or wealth. His message was for everyone, and he made it accessible to all. Miracles were met with secrecy, often accompanied by a request for silence. He seemed more concerned with the impact on the individual than with public acclaim. His actions were driven by compassion and a desire to help, not self-promotion or a thirst for recognition. He never sought retribution, even when faced with betrayal and persecution. He preached forgiveness and understanding, even towards his enemies. He never promised an easy life, but rather a life of purpose, sacrifice and unwavering faith. He prepared his followers for hardship, knowing that the path to righteousness was not always smooth. His claims were personal, direct, cutting through layers of tradition and dogma to speak directly to the human heart. And these claims were often unsettling to religious authorities, who felt threatened by his challenge to their power and their interpretation of Scripture. He spoke of a personal God, a God who was intimately involved in the lives of his followers, a God who cared deeply about their struggles and their triumphs. His teachings were not vague philosophies or abstract concepts, but rather practical guidance for living a more meaningful and fulfilling life. His path was narrow, a challenging and demanding road that required unwavering commitment and a willingness to forsake worldly desires. It was a path demanding a radical change of heart, a complete transformation of one's inner self. Yet beneath his gentleness, his compassion, and his unwavering kindness was fierce conviction, a burning passion for truth and justice that could not be extinguished. He confronted hypocrisy, challenging the self-righteousness and moral failings of those who claimed to be pious. He did so with words that stung, sharp and incisive, designed to pierce through the hardened hearts of those who refused to see the truth. His warnings against harming children, either physically or spiritually, were chillingly intense, reflecting his deep love for the innocent and his unwavering commitment to protecting them from harm. I saw him drive out money changers, those who had turned a sacred place into a den of thieves, from the temple, a bold and defiant act that challenged the very foundations of the religious establishment. It was an act of righteous anger, a display of his unwavering commitment to justice and his refusal to tolerate corruption. His actions were often perplexing, seemingly contradictory, leaving many to wonder about his true intentions. And his delays, his seemingly inexplicable hesitations, were often purposeful, designed to test the faith and patience of those around him. He loved fiercely, with a depth of compassion that transcended human understanding. He loved even as he anticipated his own suffering, knowing the pain and sacrifice that lay ahead. Gentle yet forceful, a paradox that defined his character. Loving, yet uncompromising, a balance of compassion and conviction. He was a storm, a force of nature that challenged the status quo and disrupted the complacency of those around him. And yet, he was also a stillness, a source of peace and tranquility that offered solace to the weary and the burdened. He was a paradox that unsettled me, a complex and multifaceted figure who defied easy categorization. The more I observed, the more I wrestled with these contradictions, the more I sought to understand the man behind the miracles. And the more I observed, the more my skepticism gave way to intrigue, a growing sense that there was something truly extraordinary about this man from Galilee. As my time with Jesus neared its end in Jerusalem, a new understanding dawned. He was not building an earthly kingdom, his power was surrender. He conquered not by force, but by relinquishing everything. He amassed no wealth, yet enriched those who listened. He commanded loyalty without seeking titles or applause. His refusal of worldly values was an active, powerful statement. True strength, he showed, was in service, not domination. His love was fierce, demanding transformation. He overturned not just tables, but the very values of society. The unadorned man from Nazareth redefined kingship, humility for a throne, thorns for a crown. The greatest power he revealed is found in surrender, the deepest love in sacrifice. My scrolls, once meant for condemnation, became a record of transformation, the story of the unadorned king.